We appreciate you being here today. We actually have some pretty exciting things to share with you, so we will get right to it. We do have some handouts that we'll be sharing with all of you as soon as we can figure out why it won't let us attach it to the chat. If we are unable to attach it during our session today, please know we will email it to you afterwards. But the two things that we'll be sharing with you are instructions on how to do all the document generation, and that includes the PPI letter, the written summary, and also the form or the MUI report. So those are instructions that you'll be receiving. And then the other thing will be the agenda that we'll be going over that also has some tips and tricks that we'll be starting off with. So I'm going to share my screen and just kind of share the agenda with you, and you'll get a copy of this as well, and hopefully it'll be helpful. And we all know we're family here, so please just let us know if there's a question, something you would like us to cover. This is your time, and we want it to be meaningful for you. So I'm also having problems sharing my screen. Oh, there we go. So one thing we wanted to cover today real quickly was just email notifications. We understand that many of you are experiencing issues with not getting all the email notifications that you should get. For example, some of you are not getting closure emails. Some of you are not getting notified when there's a MUI that's been recommended for closure. We know that that is a problem still, and we also need to streamline who is getting what notifications. So please know that probably in the next deployment, which will be 2 weeks from yesterday, I think it's April 13th, those email notifications should be fixed. And that means for every email notification that we have, the IA, the person that entered the MUI, the backup IA, and any and all IA supervisors for that county will be getting that notification. So we understand right now it's kind of intermittent. There's been some issues. We just want to let you know we appreciate your patience, and we definitely will be making sure that that gets fixed and available within the next cycle of solutioning. The other quick update is really just some tips for you about what needs to be added into an MUI prior to being to be recommended for closure. For example, we all know that there's certain data points that need to be entered in for specific MUI types. For example, if it's a unapproved behavioral support, you know that we need the information around the restraints, injury, and things like that. If it's a physical abuse, we need to know things like the level of force and different information that's required within the protocols. This chart is just a little helpful kind of at a glance that you can look at to make sure that you are putting in all the information that is required before you're recommending an MUI for closure. Please note that these things should all be required before you submit an MUI for recommendation to be closed, but unfortunately that part is not working. So that will be fixed. But in the meantime, if you could just be aware that all this information needs to be completed, you know, the findings, the PPI information, depending on what the category is. If you could kind of just glance over this prior to closing a case, just to make sure you're hitting everything that needs to be completed, that will kind of save you some time, us some questions, and make sure that the information is complete and thorough. So this is just a little chart for your review. Any questions yet?
Connie, I have
Do,
a question.
oh, go ahead, please.
If you have an unanticipated hospitalization, then your prevention plan says the staff will ensure the follow-up appointment is completed, but that follow-up appointment is not until after the MUI is scheduled to be closed, the last due date. What do we do in that case? We can't verify if that appointment was ever made.
Yeah. So if it's an unanticipated hospitalization, a lot of times we really do want to make sure that that follow-up appointment's happened. I would probably request an extension and see that through to the end. A lot of times we have those repeat hospitalizations, because those follow-up appointments, that PTOT or medication was never given as ordered as part of the discharge plan. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Excellent question. We're gonna do some demos on doc generation and reports. And before I do that, I just wanted to share the rest of the agenda, just some of the tips that we've already gone over in previous office hours. Just make sure that you have the instructions. And those are about draft MUIs. We are also hoping that the fix for this is going to be available within the next probably next 2 to 3, 4 weeks, along with the not served individuals. A lot of the document migration issues that we've been dealing with, those are also being tested right now, and we hope to see a lot of that data fixed, especially around the demographics information and other information that you're used to seeing in ITS that hasn't been available in the new system. And again, these are just some things that you're going to find on the handouts about making associations, adding in details about PPIs, and it's just a reference for you. So we're going to share that with you. Probably what we'll do is go ahead and share this on the MUI list serve along with those instructions. So everyone will have access to those after today's session. So one of the things we're going to show today, which I'm pretty excited about, got fixed last night, was the PPI letter. So I'm just going to log into the system here to demonstrate. We know that for the document generation, well, everything within the system is in real time. So if you go to run a report, it should be based on the most current information. There's no 24-hour lag like there was with the data warehouse. So that's kind of a nice feature. So we know that as an IA supervisor, you have access to information that others don't have. Rightfully so, because you're doing these investigations. So we know that you have a broader search feature for PPIs and individuals served across the state. We also know that you have access to document generation for documents that others don't have access to. So we know that most of our users at the county board COG level have access to the MUI report, but they don't have access to the PPI letter and the MUI written summary. And so I think we've demonstrated a few of these before, but we're going to go over the PPI letter again today because there were a few things that got fixed yesterday evening during that deployment. So with the document generation, you can pick any MUI that you are interested in. And I apologize, I'm gonna log out of production and get into the test environment because I want to expose real data here. So if I log into this system and I'm going to impersonate a user, let's just say, and I made up a user who used to work for the department. Mike Snow. And if I go in as him, we can demonstrate the PPI letter without exposing any data. So apologize for the behind the scenes here. So now you're seeing the screen that an IA or IA supervisor, or any of our community members really will see when they log in. And if I go to one of the MUIs that has been created, we're going to check this out and see which one has a PPI. Hopefully one of them does. If not, we can create one in the system. You can see the document generation is actually in several places throughout the MUI. So you have your actions tab here where you can see document generation. And from there, I can access the MUI report or the written summary. These other ones are going to be grayed out to you depending on what your role is. But for today's demonstration, we're going to be looking at the MUI report and the MUI written summary and the PPI letter. So you also noticed that there was a place at the top of the MUI that had document generation. And so if we go back here again, you'll see document generation here. And that's going to give me the option to run the MUI report or the written summary. And the reason they're in two places and it looks like the same exact package is because this actions tab is not going to be accessible to you after you have recommended for closure. So we added this document generation tab here so that when it's been recommended for closure and afterwards, you can still run the report, you can still do a written summary, you can still do other things that you need to do. So that's why you'll see those two different tabs to access the document generation. Again, the document generation at the top of your MUI is going to be for the written summary and the MUI report itself. If there is, let's see. Okay, good. So there is a category for a physical abuse on this sample MUI. And so to access the PPI information, I'm going to go to to access the PPI letter, excuse me, I'm going to go to the PPI section of the MUI. And you can see that's where dust and pour is listed as the PPI. And from there, I'm going to go to the actions tab. That's going to allow me to edit the PPI information or generate the PPI letter. So for Dustin, it's going to take me through the step, and it's really very simple. It's going to, I'm going to have the ability to run this after I put in some simple information like Dustin's information about his address. So I'm going to go ahead and put in Elm Street. Just add this in here. And then basically all you do is hit run. And this is going to export information from the MUI that you've put in there, including the findings. If you have a findings listed, it will add in the information specific to the PPI. It will add in the information about who completed the investigation, and some other information. So basically all you do is add the address, hit run, and then it's going to download the PPI letter for you here. And then it's going to download in a Word document. So you can add this to your letterhead. You could change it however you want. You can save it as a PDF. So you'll see that obviously this information that I exported or inputted about his address is here. It's also pulling in other information from the MUI, such as the category, the number, the county. It's going to put today's date in here. This is standard information that comes with the letter, just explaining that's required to notify the PPI in certain situations. It's going to pull in the MUI category, and then whatever finding I have put in here, it is going to list that. It's going to put an X next to that. And then it's going to include the name of the investigator. And then if you have additional information, your contact information in the system, it will add that there as well. It also includes just standard information that you can go ahead and have in your letter that obviously meets all the requirements. So that is the PPI letter. There's also the ability, if there's multiple PPIs for multiple categories, you'll have the ability to download a PPI letter for each category and each PPI. So I'm going to stop there and see if there's any questions. Does anyone think this will be helpful?
Yes, I do. I'm like taking notes frantically over here.
Well, you don't have to, because we'll send you the instructions.
Actually, no, I'm actually walking through to see if I can do it myself.
Oh, okay. Okay. Now, if I happen to download a PPI letter, or I try to do it and there's no PPI listed, I'm not gonna have the ability to do that. Or if there's no finding that I put in for that MUI, it's gonna just basically give you these 3 sections, but there's gonna be no finding listed. So chances are, if you see that, you need to go back and make sure that a finding has been entered in. But otherwise, it should pull all that information in for you. Okay.
Just mine is still loading. I'm just curious. If there's more than one PPI, how does it know which one to pull?
That's a good question, Jenny. So, oops. Let me go back to the MUI. So for each PPI, there's going to be a PPI listed, and each one would have the actions tab for their name. So you should be able to, like, if I had another PPI, I could have that added, and then I could generate a PPI letter for that person as well. So as many PPIs as you have, you should be able to generate that many PPI letters. So you could have obviously different findings, you could have someone that has a substantiated neglect, and then maybe there's a failure to report that's not substantiated, or vice versa. So that should all be there. And then it's, obviously based on the categories as well. So there's not going to be a PPI, obviously, for a law enforcement, a PPI letter generated for law enforcement or unanticipated hospitalization. It's just going to be connected to that one category that it's relevant to. I'm going to quickly, before I turn over to Dustin to talk about reports and the new folders for the reports, go over the document generation as it applies to the MUI report and also the written summary. And again, you'll be receiving instructions on that. I'll email those out real soon after this session. So again, I could go to either place to locate the document generation. And probably when you open this up, you're not going to have these additional drafts because I'm in the testing environment. And so there's different testing reports and things. So once I go to select the MUI report, and it is a little slow, it is going to basically call up the MUI report that you're very used to seeing. We wanted to talk about the MUI report today because there are some corrections and enhancements that are being made. And so we just want you to be aware, even though this is an option, we just want to make sure that you're paying attention to what it says in the initial statement to make sure that it captures everything. It should be correct, but we just want to make sure it's comprehensive. So I think some of you have noticed that in a couple of the initial statements on the MUI report, it just had one word from the initial report and not the entire thing. So we just want to make sure that that's working properly and that everything has been captured under there. Well, this environment is running super slow.
Mine's not working either. It just says loading, so I don't know if something's going on.
Yeah, it's quite possible. I'm going to try one more thing here. And if not, we can always come back to this if we have time. We definitely want to show you the reports and report folders while we're together. So let me try one more time to hit it's basically hitting the MUI report and the run button. And again, it should pull up the PDF, or I'm sorry, it should pull up the Word document. And you can edit that, or you can just save it as a PDF or save it as a Word document as an attachment. And you should be able to do that at any point during the process, whether an MUI is open, whether it's closed, you should be able to access that report. Probably a lot easier than I'm accessing it today. So I'll try one more thing. We are going to try to see if we have any more luck with the written summary letter. It might just be the test environment. Okay, so we'll go through this real quickly. So the written summary, obviously, you know, is required to be sent to the individual, their guardian, anyone else that person would like to have the information, generally the provider. So what this gives you an opportunity to do is to put pieces of your report into this written summary letter so you don't have to duplicate it. And so basically, I could pick just the summary of the incident. I could just, type in, or more likely cut and paste from the investigation report that I have and put in the findings here. Again, it would be probably cutting and pasting. Whoops. And then I could do that for each person that I have checked here. So if I want to cut and paste the same information for the guardian, the provider, and the other parties, it will allow me to do that. I can also customize it for that person. So if I want the guardian to have different information, I can customize it to meet that person or the provider, or if there's other parties involved, or if you'd like the SSA or someone else to get that information. So again, the just options to have. You're not required to use this or the PPI letter, but it's just a ability to pull in some information. So basically, I'm putting that information into the system, and then I'm just hitting next, and it's gonna. I should have just done it for the one, so now it's gonna go through all the ones I've checked. It allows you, if you want to put in an address for other parties, you can certainly do that. Or you can just hit run. And again, it's going to pull up as many of those written summaries as you have selected that you want. So if you wanted one for the guardian, you'll have one for that. If you wanted one for the provider, again, that's going to be in a separate document so that you can have each of those documents and then you can customize them as you would like. So once this pulls up, it should give me, again, anywhere from 1 to 4 documents, and then I can download it and again, save it for my files or do whatever else I need to do. And I do have an example, if this is not going to pull,
Hey, Connie, real
yes.
quick. Sam had a question. It's a great one.
Okay.
Once an MUI is closed and you go back to the report, are you supposed to be able to generate the MUI summary?
The written summary or the report itself? Sorry.
Sam, you want to speak to it real quick?
Yeah, the written summary, like the report itself I went back in the MUI that I closed because I forgot to generate that MUI summary after
Right.
it was closed. When I went back and found the MUI, I couldn't generate that MUI summary.
Right. So what we did was we added this document generation button, so that the written summary and the report should be accessible to you even after the MUI is closed. But if you're having issues seeing this document generation that I'm pointing to, let us know and we can check out your permissions, Sam. But that's a really good question because we realized that was problematic. You need to have access to these reports regardless which stage the MUI is in.
Yeah, it didn't have that other option up there for me at that time on that particular one, but another one it did have it.
Okay, so you probably got it before it was corrected. So you may want to, I mean, if you need to go back or you want us to have it to go back, we can always run whatever report for you. But yeah, that's probably what happened is we made the correction after you did that. So from now on, they should all have that document generation button at the top. So you can pull the report at any time. So this just gives you an example of the written summary that we just did, and you can see it pulls in the information about the MUI, who investigated it, who it was going to, and then basically you see the bolded sections here. That would be any information that you put in. The nice thing about the letter is, or the written summary, is it also pulls in the dispute instructions. So if someone that's received the written summary can dispute the MUI findings, it pulls in that information as well. And then it has the information about whoever investigated it. And so that they can be contacted, it'll have your name, your number, any information that you have into the system. So that is the written summary letter. And I'm going to try one last time before I turn this over to Dustin to see if we can get this MUI report to run. And if not, we will make sure that we demonstrate the next time we're together. Dustin, I don't know if you'll have more luck logging into production, because it does seem like the test environment is not working real smoothly right now. So, okay. And just going back to our the instructions that will be provided to you, you can go and look on those and see the different instructions for the form report and the PPI letter and the written summary. And examples of each of those will be provided as well. So I am going to go ahead and turn it over to Dustin, if that's okay.
That works for me. Thanks, Connie.
Thanks.
So yeah, we have some good news. We hope that it's good news at least. So we've been working diligently on reports, and we do have some available. So yay, everybody's clapping, everybody's excited. And so I want to kind of show you where those are housed, where those folders are located in the system, and kind of also know that this is still being worked on, developed, and even though there's some reports available at this moment, there's still ones that we really want to ensure you have that you are familiar with from the old system as well, or data warehouse. So I am going to quickly share my screen here, and I'm going to give you a little info on where you can find that information in the Ohio Incident Tracking and Monitoring System. So once you log in, you'll now navigate over to the Report tab. It's been there all along, but we didn't have a lot in there. So I want to make sure that you are going to the Report section, and you can kind of see some recents here that I've seen, but you're not going to see all this when you log in. You're going to want to navigate down to the All Folders part of the Report section, and then there is these different folders. Now, my permissions are just a tad different than yours, so I might be seeing a little extra, but you're going to be looking for the ITS, MUI, DODD, ITMS, DB, COG, PC folder. And when you open up that folder, you're going to have some various reports in here and see some reports that are going to start coming in. You have full realm to go through any of these reports, and just know that they're going to be based on your security levels and your permission levels based by county or user. And so there are some specific reports that were created for COG purposes. There are some other reports that were created for decided incident categories by discovery date. There is client grid by category, and you kind of see here as we kind of plug along report based on extensions that might be pending or being approved. There's a master MUIs list, and really this is about having all types of incident categories available with all filtering functions available. You can see questions, responses, those statuses of those. You can look at different, again, kind of being redundant by just kind of walking you through, but there's lots of different reports here available. I'm going to show you one where I don't think jeopardizes any information. Because I don't think these are in the testing environment per se. They're kind of housed in our system right now. So I kind of want to show you an example of what one might look like when you open it up. So this is an MUI extensions pending and approved report. And you can see that there's a lot of records. Again, we're looking at it from my vantage point, so I see a lot more than perhaps you do. But you can also pull up the filters when you go in here, and you can see all the extensions. You can see also that these have been default setting to anything after August 31st, 2022, which was when our system launched, moving forward in this current date. But you can modify any of this information anytime that you need. So if you want to focus in on a shorter date, maybe you want to look at a specific point in time, maybe even look at extensions for the week or month, you can do all that modifying and filtering here. Additionally, you can see that these are all based on status. And then you can also filter by who is the individual or IA who created the extension. And you can also see that these are extensions based on pending cases or cases with questions. And so when we kind of go side to side, we see that it's organized by when the MUI was due, that MUI name, and then all the extensions. And this one's got a couple. You can see when the extension request itself was created. You can see the date in which that extension request was for, the date in which that was approved for. So if these match, that means you got the date in which you wanted. And then you can also see maximum extension date, which is the maximum extension date that the current MUI is approved for. So if it was due 9/1 and it's approved for this date, this is your go-to. You can see the statuses, you can see who created it, you can see the reasoning and details. Lots of good information here. I think that is going to be very, very helpful for information that you are seeking. Additionally, if you want these reports, unlike list views, you can take these away. So you can hit the drop down arrow here. You'd be able to hit export. You'd get this nice little export screen and you could hit export. I got an example already pulled up on what that looks like. So you can see that the report name itself, you can see who ran that report, when it was ran, all the filters that were utilized, and then all of those data points that are associated with that report. And again, you can customize all these the way you need. So we're excited about this because we've been waiting for these functions. We're working on evolving reports, again, bringing reports over from the prior system. But we thought this is a good start that we've been waiting for, and we want to make sure you were aware that this folder exists and that there's some reports available. So would love for you to take a peek at these and give us feedback. Let us know if they're working for you and if all the information makes sense. I'm going to just pick one just for the sake of picking one and kind of show you another example, but I don't think we'll have a ton of information, and I can also kind of hide it if I need to. So this one, for instance, is a report based on information that's pending. So these are cases in which you've started, you're investigating actively, haven't been closed. So you can see here when that MUI is originally due, that MUI name. You can see that it's sorted by status, which is all pending. And then you can see if there was an extension or maximum extension date. And then there's other data points here as you go across based on who the investigative agent is. There's categories, there'll be the incident date and so forth. There's also filtering options here available. So you can see, for instance, this is focused on any and all MUI categories. You can sort by the specific investigative agent. You can kind of go down and see, you can sort it by appendix, by individual, provider, PPI, PPI relationship, findings, and then all these so far in the system are defaulted to a due date of greater than August 31st. Again, that's that launch date. But at any time, you have access to modify all these filters. You can even say, yeah, I want to use a relative date, and I'll just say, I want to look at this week's MUI. And you hit that in and hit apply. You're then going to only see cases that are due within that current week. So you can see here it says 47. So there's 47 MUIs due on this date. Now, again, we're looking at it from my vantage point, not yours. So you'll see the number here that are due on that date. You'll see the MUIs that are associated with, or the categories that are associated with that MUI. And again, you'll be able to work through some of those data points that I mentioned here. And I don't want to go too far to get into any information, but you can have all these different options available. And again, you can take those away. One thing you may or may not notice, probably you will notice, is if there's any blanks by an individual, PPI relationship, those types of things. That's kind of coming back to when we're closing out cases or before we do so, making sure all those associations are made to the record. And so if you see any of those blank spots or see things missing, don't panic. We can fix it. We just want to make sure that we are being, mindful before we close cases out, that we're making those associations, that those make sense. And if we need to add more information, that we're doing so before we close out that record. So that is a really quick run through. We're excited because there's reports. There's going to be more coming. I know there's other ones in here that maybe look more familiar from our old systems, such as Client by Grid. And I could also pull, I believe, do one more just for discussion. So let's say we want to look at the size incident category by discovery date. Click that, and again, it's going to be set up already automatically to your permission level. So you won't get as many as I do, but you'll get some good information here. So you can see here based by county, the MUI category, and then all of those categories associated with MUIs within your county. So this is really, really good news. Really, really excited. Only other things to consider, to think about why we're looking at all this data, are data migration things that are still coming over from our previous system, and then associations that are kind of being made in the background. So just kind of want to make you aware of that. Again, really, really excited about reports being available, having some items at your disposal. And really, if you have or see anything that you need or want or doesn't make sense, please let us know. We'll work with you. Additionally, as we open up more functionality, you'll have the ability to clone those reports and customize those reports at your own needs. But in the meantime, if there's things you see, want, or need in the interim, let me know. I'll do my best to try to make you a customized report, but we're trying to hopefully use these as a template or a starting point so we can give you that functionality. Think of it as list views, but kind of beefed up, and you have now a report that you can take away. Additionally, I think we talked in our last office hours about doing some virtual workshops and stuff. So we'll set those up so you know how to use filtering, and that you know how to kind of create those reports once you get that functionality. I see that Jenny has a question. Hi.
So I think you're on mute, Jenny.
My question was, can I break this? So if I go in and I see something that like I don't want, I don't want to equal to or not equal to, if I delete that, is the next time I open it, is it going to be back there again? Like, I'm not gonna, is it going to save what I do, or?
So we're gonna know it's
Like,
you,
sorry.
and we're gonna know it's Jenny Flowers, everybody, and we're gonna come after Jenny. No, I'm joking. So if you go in and you accidentally delete a filter, change a filter, make modifications, you don't have the ability to save, or it won't be affected by other users using that report. So if you go in, and we tested this, we were really scared, we were nervous, but we did it, we got over it, and we just wanted to feel comfortable about any potential mistakes that could affect other users. So say you're in there and you're like, oh, I want to trash can that filter. If you do so, it's not going to affect anybody else's report. When you leave that report and come back, all those filters and all those defaults will be restored to how you viewed them the first time. Good question.
Yeah, and I know that it's important. I know a lot of people want to add their filters, customize their report, and don't want to have to do that every time. So we're hoping in the next deployment, you will have the ability to clone the reports like Dustin talked about. You already have the ability to download, like he demonstrated, but you'd be able to save those reports that you've customized. And then every time you go back in, it will be updated. An updated version will be there for you. So we really are working hard to get that completed. We did add some additional reports in there. We actually had some reports that we utilized that we gave access to you. One of them is called the Mental Health Trends Report. So you'll see on there, and it basically pulls individuals in your county or developmental center or COG that have MUIs related to attempted suicide, psychiatric hospitalizations, and unapproved behavioral supports. And so that's a nice kind of way to look at some of that information to see how you might be able to work with that person, their team, to address those trends. Nelson says that he can't access generated documents on the application. Okay, we will help you troubleshoot. So you should obviously, as an IA, have access to that. So we can look at your permissions and make sure that's correct. And we'll do that after this meeting, Nelson. So thanks for letting us know.
Any questions on report? I know it's been something we've been waiting for, and I think I was like super excited this morning to be like, oh my gosh, we can tell us something good, and then we have reports and we have something in the mix. So, you know, definitely again, like let us know your feedback, and if you're playing around in it now and taking a peek, again, just checking to make sure it makes sense. Tried to I did some creating on these. I tried to organize it in orders and groupings that made the most sense for that type of report. So if you see something, or just let us know. We're really curious about the feedback because it's a brand new report and a new layout. So keep us posted.
So
One
just
other
real quick, Dustin, you said that you're still in the process of migrating stuff over. So this isn't like current or accurate necessarily at this point. I mean, it's not all there.
So it's two things. A lot of these reports are pulling anything 831 and forward, and so you're capturing a certain essence of time. You can open those up to do all time or look backwards. It's just that when you run those reports, you might see these weird pairings, or like there might not be certain information available. So it might just say like the first category, if it's a due date, it might just say 100 versus all of the due dates. But that just means that that information is available elsewhere, and we just are still migrating. So there might seem like some rare oddities or discrepancies. I would not overly concern or worry yourself if you pull some of those in. We're actively working on it, and we can kind of give you some better information once we look into it. We can assist you to make sure it makes sense and it's correct.
a couple of things. I know that people are really interested in the 24-hour conformance and all of those other reports that you had previously in the data warehouse. Those are coming and will be put in those folders as they are available. You'll notice that you also have access to the folder that says like county board provider and then county board cog and DC. That is going to be the provider folder in which providers will have access to the reports they have or will have access to. So like those standard 5 reports that they had available in data warehouse, those will be coming and put in that folder, and you'll have access to that information as well. So these as you keep getting into the system and looking at reports and playing around with those, you'll start to see more and more reports becoming available to you. And like Dustin said, we're very interested in your feedback. We want to make sure that it's as useful as possible and meaningful to you and your needs. We also thank you so much for your patience, because you guys have been really a great partner to us. We know it's been quite a transition into this new system, and we're hoping that we're starting to hit some strides here and making some real advancements with the system. But we really appreciate all that you have done to support that, letting us know when there's been concerns or you don't have access that you should, and working through those things with us. So we really appreciate that. Other questions, suggestions do you guys have?
I don't think I see any questions, Connie, but when you're looking in that report folder, any of the report folders, you're going to see, again, that report name. You're going to see a description of that report. If you keep scrolling over, you'll see more information as well. I'm actively trying to put some descriptions in some of those reports to help guide you on what that report actually has or contains, and some helpful hints along the way. So if you see some blanks right now, know that there's information coming, and we're just hoping to make sure we have everything available as we have it, and can get it to you in a way that makes sense and that it's easy to follow. So I didn't see anything else. If anybody else had any questions, Connie, in the chat.
We'll give you a couple minutes back on your day. hopefully you can start your weekend early, and look for an email from us here in a couple of minutes with those instructions and the agenda that we went over today. And this has been recorded, so we will post this to our website as well, so you can refer back to it in the future. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.